and then Colin and Tim will take over.
Sure. So if we can just roll ourselves back to the first lockdown, so prior to that date, we'd been computerized for nearly 20 years prior to that. So, you know, as a hairdressing business, we'd moved away from the pencil and diary scenario, and I had lots of colleagues of mine back then that were still at it in London on pencil and paper. So we were very innovative and forward-thinking at the time when we were sending text messaging reminders 20 years ago. I was chatting there before, we'd even mentioned it to government that this would be a great way to save money for the health services and dentists and doctors, and they said, nah, it's never going to happen. So anyway, so on the morning of our hack, I got a phone call from one of my girls to say that she wasn't able to come into work, and of course I could log into my system from home, which I did, just to have a look at her column, figure out where I was going to put things. And that was my first mistake, because instead of closing it down, I went 10 minutes away, jumped in the car, off to work. By the time I got to work, my manager said, the systems won't load up. Every time I load them up, they switch off. So I said, that's strange, because I've just been into it and had a look at it. So wouldn't load up, so I phoned our IT guys, which were Morton at August, and he hooked into our system and phoned me straight away and said, switch all your systems off, because you have now got a Bitcoin ransomware drilled into your server. So I said, what does that mean? He says, basically, your systems are compromised. He said, I'll be there in 5 minutes. So came down, plugged in. He said, this is just something on, it's just eating away at all your folders and files. So how does that compromise us? And he says, well, brutally, he says, you can't see anything, everything's encrypted. Nothing's been compromised, they haven't lifted any data out or anything like that. It's just, they blinded you. And unless you are able to pay the 100,000 Bitcoin ransom, it's pretty sad. Why would you want to do that? So what did that mean to us? It meant we had no idea who was coming in, for what service, for what stylist. We had no notes, so we had no technical backup in terms of what the client had. You ladies here will understand that, what they'd had previously. We couldn't make appointments because we didn't know what was already booked. And we were 3 days down before that first lockdown, so we still were none the wiser about lockdown. So for the 3 days that we carried on trying to run the business, we had nothing, no phone calls. We literally had to scrap all our hardware. Everything went. So it was 15 grand just in computers, screens, server needed to be replaced anyway. But the biggest thing that I learned, outside the fact that COVID came, locked us up, and we just walked away from it, which was probably a godsend in many ways, because I don't know how we would have got through it without being shut. The biggest thing I learned was we've been with our booking provider for 16 years, and we rely on that, don't we, in all different facets. You always assume that your working relationships are always with the one party, that there's no second party involvement. And you said, well, you said you had everything backed up. I said, well, we've got nothing backed up. I said, so you've got no idea of what I've been paying every month for. I have no backup. Obviously, we had off-site backup, but we couldn't get a hold of it because the server was so out of date that, because it was now dead, Morton could lift off any data from the cartridges, which would have probably out there anyway. Allen Chamber, our government was fantastic with the cyber. They had encryption keys. So they too went through all the encryption keys that government had, and not one of them could open the tight, locked ransomware that had been put in there. Interpol had a little go, so they tracked the IP address to somewhere in Bologna. Well, that was great. But it could have been somebody sat outside in a car. Because that's how clever some people are. And these kids, unfortunately, are fantastic. They're one step ahead. So, yeah, I learned that before I get involved in any second party relationship, certainly to support the business that we run, I need to know everything about them. It took me 90 days of that first lockdown to completely rebuild the infrastructure of our business. That's booking systems, the different levels of stylists, the pricing, all the service categories, subcategories, all the stock. I can't begin to tell you, people laugh when they say 3 months, seriously, and I said, was the first week I was at it day and night until the wife said, come on, you know, this could last for a long time. And so I put it back to 5 hours a day. And then because I'd fallen out so much with that booking provider, we got into bed with a new company that are based in Dublin who are cloud-based. I know everything about Forest. They're multi-global, and they were fantastic in helping me. He said, we can do it for you. I said, no, I need to know how it works. I need to know how everything is. So I did it with their support. So then I did my daughter's beauty business, restructured all of that, and now we are absolutely spot on. Now we send emails, text messaging, we embrace the client. The client is able to, without fear of being hacked or anything like that, they can get all their information. They've got it there on their handheld units, and it's a wonderful system. But it took that door shutting, another one opening, for me to realise that there are better systems out there, and it's constantly evolving. And if I had to say to any of you that are in small business, is do your research, overview your business on a regular basis. Look at what's there. Every 12 to 18 months, you need to be looking at your credit card handling charges. We've changed from Paytech to SumUp. SumUp's fantastic, absolutely amazing. So we're constantly trying to evolve our business and trying to stay ahead of potential attacks that can literally drop you to your knees, for sure. The cost of replacing all your hardware, government again, great in supporting us with that. They realised that obviously with the impact of COVID, that they were able to support us slightly on the financial bit of that. So that was the aftermath. The aftermath, we had to literally, when we reopened in June, we opened as a new business again. Completely new stats. Every client that came in, although we knew who they were and we'd seen them for years, you're a new client. Let's start again. New information, new data, new everything went in there. And it was probably about 3 months before they started, that turnaround coming back in. So it took about 3 months to build the database up again. But we couldn't even take a bill. You know what I mean? It's like 3 days and we couldn't even take a bill because the point of sale was on our system. So 3 days, no income.
So if you had, let's just pretend COVID hadn't happened, you hadn't gone into lockdown.
Yeah.
Do you think what the cost would have been to your business? Because you would have had to close, wouldn't you?
We would have had to have closed, definitely.
Yeah.
We could not have opened as we were. We had access to our computer in Walpole Avenue in our town centre salon. We unplugged that on day 2, just so that we they had separate clutch of clients. Because it wasn't cloud-based, clients that went to Walpole Avenue went there. So if they'd never been into Castle Mona, into our main salon, we wouldn't have any data for them. That was a problem of it not being cloud-based. I can take the bill on the phone now, on an iPad. You know, it doesn't matter where I am. I can look at people's notes. It actually comes on my watch. You know, as soon as a client comes and checks in, it buzzes on my watch. So I know, and the receptionist comes out and says, Kathy's 3 minutes early, sort of thing. So that's how good the system is. But the answer to your question is, I don't know how long it would have taken us. It took me 90 days, so.
Phenomenal timing that you went into lockdown.
Honestly, it is the best thing that happened to us.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone say that before. Especially a business like yours, because actually it would have been the worst, but I mean, still not great, obviously, but.
We, as I said, wouldn't have been able to cope with it at all.
So lessons learned.
Absolutely. So that's it. All I can say is, you know, overview businesses, make sure that you've got your finger on the pulse. Don't assume that what you have is functional and works, because that's why there's companies there that are available that can do a health check. It's just a simple thing. Just have somebody come in, give your business a little health check when it comes to cyber, definitely. Right.
I'm interested, what did the service provider say when you told them about the incident?
They said that they apologised, but I says, but the Elevate package that I was paying for had off-site backup. This is, well, yeah, but that's because you're on the Isle of Man. We don't have that. I said, well, why am I paying for the Elevate package? You know geographically where I'm situated. I said, is this what? Is this sort of a lurid excuse?
Did they compensate you at all?
Not at all. Not at all.
Not even for paying for a package that wasn't.
Honestly, we had, I think, 36, possibly, it was 35 months left to go on our sort of updated agreement. And I just said, don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. I said, I ripped it up, and I posted it to you in bits. And I did. I literally ripped the contract up, put it in an envelope, and posted it. And that was that. The guys that I deal with now at Forest are fantastic. And I can't speak more highly of them. It's, they are superb. They have immediate contact, immediate support. Anything at all that doesn't appear right, they're there straight away, and they can hook into it. The one downside is our online booking systems. You pay for it, obviously, a deposit, but it's held by a company called Stripe. Stripe don't function on the Isle of Man. So what they do is so you pay your deposit, so you're like 60p or something like that, and it's their handling charge. So they keep the 60p, and then they, every month they obviously send us the money that is balanced off for vouchers and online purchases. So that's the only, if I had to have a negative, that's the only negative, is that Stripe don't function on Isle of Man.
Any of your insurance cover?
Nothing at all. We can't even get cover. We're battling now, along with a lot of other businesses, for the impact of COVID on businesses. You know,
There are insurance companies that offer cyber insurance as well.
yeah. Oh yeah, there is. We didn't have it.
None of your existing cover?
No, and quite honestly, everybody makes the mistake, and me along, of trying to get the best deal when it comes to insurance, because you know you're covering for chemicals, both for staff and for clients, indemnity and all that jazz. It's not high on your list of priorities, but you're so right. You know, it should be there. I mean, as I say, a lot of businesses are now battling to get some sort of compensation for their closures to their businesses through their insurance.
What happened to the Information Commissioner?
Sorry.
What happened with the information commissioner?
The,
Anything?
no,
Did you go? No?
no,
You're not registered with them?
no.
They didn't take any, they didn't actually take your data, did
They didn't take any data at all.
Oh, no.
They just.
No, they literally just encrypted it. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, sorry, the information, I understand that the question. No, we didn't have anything compromised at all. Nothing was removed. Everything was just covered over and erased. Encrypted.
Could they unlock it?
Government couldn't unlock it. They had no
No, but the
key.
people who've done this, can they decrypt or whatever
No.
the terminology is?
Don't know because we binned it all.
Right.
All that viral stuff that was in there got taken away by Borton at Overs.
And they effectively deleted everything.
They effectively killed it all completely.
Oh, right. I didn't
So-
know you could do that. I thought once they encrypted,
Yeah,
that was it, they had your data. If they reverse what they've done? No.
It depends, I think it's a different strength of ransomware, depends if they've got a copy, but it sounds like they did a local lock of market data, but only they will know that.
Alan Chamber was very good with it at government. He worked with Borton at Overs and made sure that all that data was, what were they going to lift off? An address, a telephone number, that was it. There's no credit card or banking details. We don't keep any of that, you see, at all.
And a lot of these systems I see, they're custom built by each person that does this type of attack. So they write it themselves. And,
Did they catch these people?
No, they just knew it was
They
in
don't
Bologna.
take it, they can't
Well,
do
they
it.
thought that's where the IP address was, but like Morgan said, he said it could have been sat in the car outside.
Yeah,
but that's with VPNs and things, you
Yeah.
can mask yourself. So
they never catch them, do they?
I think they can, they do, but not always.
Oh.
I think I was just interested what 100,000 Bitcoin was worth.
Yeah, what is that? Well, it fluctuates. doesn't it?
I mean, just,
No idea.
I mean, does this guy know that we're a hair salon?
Yeah, at least ask for like actual money.
Yeah.
So I know what you're talking about.
All right, guys. Any-
Were your clients apprehensive to give information afterwards?
Not really, because it was like people knew obviously that we'd been hacked and that, but it was like because it was like 3 months further on, and we obviously started from scratch again. No, nobody at all was reticent in actually giving just filling in the iPads. We had loads of iPads. We had more iPads than Apple at the time. Just giving them all out. So no, they were good like that. But as I say, we don't take any credit card details at all. Yeah. All righty. Cool. Okay. As I say, thank you.
Thank you very much.
What do you say, how are you?
Skedaddle, if I may. That's right in there. It's kind of up some more flags. So, thank you indeed for your time. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Colin Townsend from Intellect. I suppose I'm, in terms of cyber, I'm sort of more of a driver than a mechanic. Tim and his company do sort of under the bonnet stuff. I drive it and I break it. First of all, apologies for my appearance. It looks like I'm a sort of World War II Spitfire pilot, but I put my sunglasses on yesterday. I've got a red face, but my head is burning. Probably all right. So I'm going to talk about my background is spectators in place, and then 10 years as a private investigator, and security now has moved very much into digital work. That's my take on this. So I'll be talking about it from a crime prevention perspective. I was going to do a fancy call, but I think we're short on time, so I've got a backup. Always good to have a backup. So we're going to do that on the slides if I get us into it. We have some technological nightmares this afternoon setting this up. So I'm just going to talk about identifying common cyber threats. I'm going to focus on one in particular. If we get that one right, we're going to probably limit 90% of it we can stop. A lot of it's down to the way we react to stuff. And it'll lower your risk. It's all about a preventative approach. So, quiz time. So there's going to be an online poll. I'm going to do it on the screen. Just make a note on with your pads and pens. I'm not going to embarrass myself when you say, what do you think about that? That's the AGES score. So, true or false? antivirus provides coverage against hackers. Okay, so just put question 1, TRF. See what you think. I'm not going to single anybody out.
Not even me, Colin. No.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to be the test subject?
Okay.
No? Yeah, do it.
No, carry on.
Okay, antivirus. There is a perception that everything about cyber is electronic. You know, I've got the McAfee or whatever I've got on my machine. I'm happy. Right. Cyber is much more electronic, and I actually don't particularly like that word, cyber. I think we're more into sort of technological risk than cyber. Cyber, everybody thinks, oh, I don't understand that. So I'll leave it alone. I'll leave it to the experts. But I think there's nothing better than getting something like Marco to stand in front of a group of business owners and say, this is what happened to me. And it's the same as I had to learn things like accounting. I had to pull in another sort of specialty, but I work on my own. I've got lots of people behind me to do different things. I had to learn all sorts of stuff about business, and this should be a business essential. So good that you're here. I don't know if you've experienced the sort of stuff that Marco has. Probably about a year ago, got my fancy new iPhone, and it collapsed on me. I was out and about trying to do some work. I couldn't access calls, emails, nothing whatsoever. I need to look into the email machine. So for about 5-6 hours, I was without my business, and that was bad for 6 hours. Can you imagine what it was like for 90 days? Just an absolute nightmare. So we rely on this stuff more than we think. Okay. My IT provider looks after my cybersecurity. I think you can answer this yourself now, can you? I don't need to worry. What do you reckon? First thing I'd say to you, have you got written confirmation about voice coverage? And I think what Marco said there was absolutely spot on. You know, I do a lot of work with due diligence, and that's what it's all about. Understand what you are paying for, what you're not paying for. You know, are they doing your backups for you? Because if they have a backup in place, you could restore from the backup and so go through that. And I'm guessing there's different types of businesses in the room, but a backup might be quite different. You've got 20 or 30 people to be in a one-man sort of band or a woman band and operate on your own. So you've got to sort of scale this into whatever works for you and do your own research. I would know immediately if my business was hacked. What do you think? There's some really interesting things about this, and I'm going to show you a slide on that. It can take months before hackers even discover, let alone how you respond to it. So they can be sat there stealing data from you, you wouldn't even know. It's like somebody out there sort of tunneling into business, leaving the back door open, whatever. I hear this a lot, and I'm sure the team is exactly the same. My business, I'm small, but no information of any use hackers. Really. So we've got customer data. Yeah. By the way, I actually think it would be safer to report the breach, just to get yourself covered if you suffer something like that, just to tick the box from a GDPR perspective. But there are different strands of ransomware. So. What do we think? I am mistrustful by nature. This is a question for you. You trust people or not? Surprise, surprise. Human beings are hardwired to trust. We have to have it engineered out of us. That's why, having spent 30 years in the police, it takes me a little while to trust anybody. But so I'm naturally suspicious. But that didn't come easy. You know, as a kid, I was born. We trust things. If I came in here with a police uniform or a warrant card and showed you that, you would trust me instantly, because no, I could be a person like anybody. You wouldn't necessarily know. You just assume authority. Got to respect authority. That's where we are. And it's even worse online because we see these emails coming all the time, and we trust it. Or we're curious. We click on things without thinking. If we engineer that out, we can get rid of all this stuff. Does that make sense? Anybody clicked on an email just out of curiosity? That's what it's about. Just click on it. And get all the dancing babies on your screen and all that sort of stuff. So, Yeah, we're going to do an online poll, but it's running short time. Okay, the UK threat, and this is some study, this is a study done by IBM, who are pretty good on this sort of stuff. And they would say to the average cost of each record taken in business damage is £150. So what's the record? If they get a business record.
Could be simple as a phone number, I guess.
Yeah, or email address. So every, I don't know what Marco had in his database, I don't think he specifically said that, but he just had that. It's unbelievable. The average overall cost for data breach to a company is £211,000. Now that's an average, and that'll be. But if you think about having not been locked down 90 days without working, I can't begin to quantify that. And that, when I said about identifying a breach, it's 90 days. So if you sat there sort of merely taking away your information, then you wouldn't even know. With a ransomware attack, you wouldn't know, because you know people's breach. And then you get this sort of, I'm a small business, I don't need to worry. So about a third of data breaches in 2020 were involved small businesses. And the other one, 60% of small business owners thinking that it's not a problem. I'm not going to be a target to all the big companies. So guess what? All the big companies have all the threat protection. What sort of business have you got in the room? I know accountancy. Yeah.
So, gosh, a number of trust.
Yeah. Okay.
Trust.
Human resource.
And accountancy.
And you've got.
Property and financial planning.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of data sets. So half of businesses, 46%, a quarter of charities report. They don't care. These villains, they don't care if you're a charity or not. They'll just go for whatever. They go for the low-hanging fruit. So that when they send out these emails in bulk, they send out in thousands in the hope that somebody will click on. We've only got to have even 1 in 10 successes is a success for them. So please don't sort of walk away thinking, oh, it's not a problem. It's a massive problem for small businesses. And I joined the police in the early 80s. We used to go around sort of checking doors and windows and like, that's what it was then. But nobody can do that online for you. You've got to sort of take responsibility for that. And it's all connected. So, what you do at home, on your Facebook account or your website, is connected to your business. What we put out on social media is connected because there's lots of people put out stuff. I despair sometimes watching social media. People putting up plane tickets. Not at the moment, obviously, but I wanted to Dubai for a month. Just a little business.
Here's a picture of my front room.
Yeah.
Don't you like this?
It's so easy to connect the dots online now. Anybody with a basic sort of understanding could do that. So I'm going to wind back in time a little bit, and things haven't changed that much. By the way, I didn't join when we had these things, so I moved away from that. But crime doesn't change that much. All they do, criminals, is they move into other areas, and they do what's easy for them. And a lot of it's opportunism. So going for low-hanging fruit. And I'll always explain this. If you look at 2 houses, one's got burglar alarms, roof on windows, locks everything. You've got a house over here, no alarm, windows are open, don't really care. Where's the villain going to go? They go for where it's easy. But I suppose the other flip that there is no 100% secure solution. All you can do is make yourself the best as possible you can. If somebody's determined enough, they're going to get in. So just make it difficult, as difficult as you can. So, in times gone by, I dealt with countless burglaries, deceptions, and these what we call kind checks, and blackmail. So dealt with all those things when I was in the police. They're all human interactions. Not anymore. You can pretty much commit burglary digitally, so someone will get into your office, stuff your data. we deceive continually with phishing emails. That's what it's all about, is to deceive you, trick you into doing something. And blackmail, the best example of blackmail is what happened to you give us money, give you data back. Okay. And you can go on the dark web and get instruction kits about this. You can actually buy the malware and you can sort of, they do help desk, so you get stuck, you can contact them and they'll sort of, oh, you need to do this, this, and this. It's made easy for them. And organised crime are very much into this now, big style. You don't hear much anymore of armed robberies in banks. What would you? The risk is far too high. You can do this sat behind a computer on the using Tor and hide. And this is, I think, the part of the problem is that we don't visualise who this is. Whereas you know what Berg looks like, but you understand the type, the stereotype. There's so many people doing this, it's difficult to quantify who, what, where, why, kind of stuff. So, and for that reason, I think that's why we find it difficult. So who's doing it? International and local. I don't know if did you read that was on social media about the Russian submarine in the Irish Sea? What's that about? But there's some suggestion that the Russians will go around trying to intercept the cables, because the internet is cable across the sea there. So are they playing with the other man? Who knows? But it's all over the world. It's local. There's probably kids here doing it. It's both organised and disorganised. There are certain types of characters that get attracted to cybercrime. When I was at FACT, but we dealt with a lot of online copyright stuff. And a lot of the kids we dealt with were actually autistic because they were attracted to complicated sort of puzzles, and this was the thing they did. So individuals, groups, nation states, without doubt, they want to try. Ransomware was sourced in North Korea. They can be technical and non-technical, because you can go online and find out how to do it. They can be very clever, but they also be very stupid. If you've ever heard of the Silk Road? The guy who ran the Silk Road, which was a dark website where you could buy pretty much any criminal enterprise or drugs or guns, whatever you wanted to. He used a nickname. He used it for years. He left that on the surface. And eventually they joined up the dots and sourced it back to him, just basically intelligence. So they do get caught sometimes. And that image, again, not obliquely, but people get that, probably don't wear it. Got this sort of image of all the images you ever see, the stock images. So I'm just going to run through some sort of cyber awareness then, things we should be thinking about. I didn't really want to use the phrase new normal. This is where we are now. Our lives exist on these devices. But maybe that's a sort of better picture. Apologies, that's a lady. It's not necessarily the case. There might be a lady looking after the kids, but that's the best one I can get. But where I'm going with that is, it's easy to be distracted when you're doing this stuff. You know, things are going on and we're sort of listening to calls and answering the phone, and it's so easy to lose your concentration. We need to concentrate on what's going on with us. Because, so in 2021 so far, 5 billion data records have already been breached. Business email compromise is on the rise. So that's where somebody's got the login details from your email. Imagine somebody getting into your email and then sending off the emails to the people, or getting access to pretty much your whole business. So there are ways you can protect against that. Ransomware still going, that will continue to be a significant threat to them. But also don't forget, these things are computers as well. You click on a text, it might open something into you, introduce you to your device, could introduce you to the network. So be wary of text messages. So this is the bit, if we get this right, we can actually make it so much easier for the likes of Tim. He can sort of concentrate on all the really important electronic stuff. So this is about where we need to start thinking. So if you can get the first thing, you get an email that you're suspicious about, it will always have some sort of sense of urgency. You need to do this now. Or urgent ASAP. Those words will be in there, and that is designed to trigger you into panic. Okay? Often invoice, managed, confidential. If it says confidential, do you open it? Can you see that I received recently? Right, did I say something? So somebody click on there, somebody click on there. You've got the words ASAP and it's top urgent. Best regards, Roy Kane, Hearts and Procurement. Right. Now, let's just disable this now.
If it's space bar, see if that will-
The recording is obsolete.
We've been hacked. Oh, I see. Yeah.
So opening an email like that is not an issue, Colin, it's clicking causes problems.
It's what's that?
But opening, you obviously open the email to read it.
Yeah, I can
That's
see
not
it in the,
issue.
you know, and then I've got mine set up, so view the pane, so I click on that and it gives me a preview. By clicking on it, that would launch the malicious software.
So am I just opening it for it, even if you didn't click on it?
Yeah, well, I'd always be very careful when I show you a couple of things, but you can generally view it,
Okay.
but the minute you start clicking and opening, that's when the top starts.
Okay.
Let me see if I can sort this, I don't know what's going on with it.
See if you can click the presentation.
Oh, there we go, right. So, I was able to look at the address from Roy Kane. It was marco.monopoly@howash.com. Now, if you're able to look at the address in the email, where you can hover over, generally speaking, on your mail client, you can see, and what they'll do is give an email alias. I'll give this an example that's coming up. Look at the domain name, and you can do stuff with the domain name. You can actually sort of copy that, go into Google and see where it's from. Okay, so I did that. I certainly didn't hold one of these. So what's happened there is, well, I think, is that this company that sell these sorts of washers, somebody's compromised that particular person's email. Okay, so when we talk about business email compromise, somebody's taken it over. Occasionally what you'll get is, it'll be a very similar domain, they might insert a hyphen or a Cyrillic character or something. So always pay attention to domain name. You can either try and visit the website, or you can do what's known as a whois check, which is to see whether the domain is incorrect. This one was doing the rounds recently, and I got one. I always again click here to parcel. AppQuery was able to deliver, so you need to do this. Just again, somebody send me a parcel. So that's what's DVLA, that DVLA, HMRC, anything tax gets people panicking, doesn't it? And you've got here routine checks, transfer irregularities, so you should panicking. Manage my driving license. Click on that, you're going to kick something off. So, and down here, they can go to the extent of copying out everything in the legitimate company, put it in the email. So, what to do when you get them? Take a look at the email address, convince yourself, or am I expecting this? Where's it from? Don't open the attachment to check it. Spelling was a technical word. Through properly. Right, don't open it, don't click. What's the worst that's going to happen?
I'll send you another one.
Yeah, could do that. They probably won't, but they'll ring you if it's genuine, aren't they? So write your credit invoice. And you know, if it's an employee of yours, you're not going to give them a crack on here for not opening it, hopefully. So they're the sort of basic things we can be doing to avoid all this. Check the email address. As an example, this is one from NatWest. If you look here, it says postmaster@visualradioarts.co.uk. Again, hovering over will often give you the biggest clue. Some things to do. Again, don't open, don't click. That's the best advice I can give you. Some things you can do as business owners in the context of your business. Make sure you've got a copy of a copy that's about backups, not backups, unless it's backed up too, really. So if you've got important documents in your small business, then put it on another detachable drive somewhere. Think about what's going to work for you. And think, do an audit of your business documents. Think, what could I not survive with? So, but there's all sorts, and Tim will know that, touch on that, talk about the intervention you can do. Other things, that is one of the best ways of avoiding business in non-compromise, two-factor authentication. So you go to log into your email, on your phone, you enter a 6-figure code. It's just like verification, so, oh yeah, you are, yeah, you're allowed in. That's the best way to think about it. Understand where your data sits. You've got it. You can't respond properly to a cyber attack. You don't know where the data is. Backups, we've said, just re-emphasising that. Backing it up. Passwords. We shouldn't be talking about dog names and cat names anymore. There's ways around this. Password. There's still people who do that, I guarantee. And they will guess their way in when they use what's known as a dictionary attack. They'll throw common words at it to get in. Password managers are the best way of avoiding this. So it's an encrypted account. I've also seen recently a little device you can tap the code in. Some people aren't very happy about putting them in the cloud, but I've used LastPass for 6 years. You only have to remember one password, long strong password, everything else is stored in there. If your phone or if you're into the reason it's happened is because the security factor is saying running this for me. To do this now, and then it will make it less easy to navigate. The longer you leave your device without that update, the more vulnerable it becomes. I know it's fine, you've got to turn the machine off and watch it go through, and you can set it up to do it automatically. Sort of like working hours now with Windows and all that, and Mac. So updates are really important. Encrypted email is really good. You don't have to do it for everything. Certainly recommend it for sensitive data. But the biggest thing, educate you, keep up to date what's going on, educate staff. Once a year get trained, things change. Every so often, just put yourself into Google and see what comes back. You'll be surprised. I run courses on due diligence investigations. We've had people in the class, there's a LinkedIn account, they've never had a LinkedIn account. And somebody set up a LinkedIn account in that person's name. So, and that can be used alongside identification counting. This is really the time I'm in Portal. So you put your email address in there and see if it's been breached. That is now, I think FBI actually are doing some work with the guy who made that particular site and built it. It's going very well. And finally, on my website, I have a system called Aris. We do a risk assessment. You can do it on your own. You can take you through it, yourself through it. There's a cyber risk comprehensive DIY for about £20, or we do a support call where we'll come online and sit you through a Zoom call. On the site, it's £199. As chamber members, I would do it for £99, and you get access to encrypted email credits and one information security level. So if you're interested in that, take my card, drop me an email, I'll arrange it with you. Okay? Because you don't know what you don't know. And they cover 6 specific areas from the profiling business right through to your premises as well. It's much bigger than electronics. Okay, I think what we're doing in terms of questions is we're going to do the end.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. You on there?
Yes, we can. Just grab a quick drink in 2 seconds. Anyway, so first of all, thanks for coming down. It's good to see some people interested. cyber, and obviously all things computers. But yeah, so I'm Tim from Mantis Technology. I have worked in the industry for about 15 years. Started off from Barclays Wealth, the banking side of IT, and worked through a number of small, just small providers. So I've seen probably around about 400 businesses, being part of them, you know, from day one when they started, all the way through to when they're growing. And from an inside and outside point of view, I can see a lot of things where small businesses will buy a lot of equipment at the beginning, and they go, actually, we still need email, we still need things to actually use these computers, what do we do? And I'm just going to run through what a small business looks like. So I want to cover and touch on cloud working, who owns your data, the importance of antiviruses, Colin's touched on, web filtering and how to get started with it, root security, and a cloud-first strategy, which obviously I think applies really well to small businesses, especially as it keeps the cost down overall. So yeah, so despite what you hear, I mean, obviously computers are secure. People like Apple, people like Microsoft, they don't make systems that you can just plug in and use. The key of a lot of these is that it needs you to do something to let them in. All the types of businesses that I've come across and the sort of attacks that I've seen firsthand have always been user initiated. They haven't managed to find a way in the back door when you're not looking or anything like that. It's actually an email into your inbox and you've clicked. And sometimes they follow up with a phone call. Depends how much information they've managed to get from you, Facebook details, things like that. So, but from where I'm from, as long as you keep computers up to date, you don't use really old software, things like that, you limit your chances. It's really, you know, I've run servers for years that actually we keep away from the internet. They don't need to be on the internet. And put them behind your router. So they could be a virtual server or a server in your office. But either way, if you don't need internet, don't have it. And that way it limits the people's own stuff and move on that way. So yeah, check the web page addresses as Colin mentioned as well. You know, we're all guilty. I do it all the time as well. When you're thinking, oh, what's that business called? I'll just quickly Google it. The first 4 adverts, the first 4 results are usually adverts. They say ad next to them, and actually adverts not vetted by anybody. Google let anybody buy an advert, and if they report it, obviously they'll take them down, but you've got to be careful. So underneath the adverts, that's sort of my big advice would be on this one. So what a good small business setup looks like. So from my perspective, this is I mean, a lot of the businesses on the island come to this statistics published are between, I see 73% are between 1 and 5 people. So you're small businesses. You know, small businesses often don't have the same budgets and things that you can do with large businesses, but there are ways to limit your chances still. I mean, Mantis, over the last 3 years, we've really been looking very closely at software. We're looking very closely at the vendors that are making progress, and we put together a suite that complements each other to make sure you're as protected as you can be, just to make sure things are backed up regularly. I find automated backups are far more powerful than having a USB stick, you know, just because we can forget the USB stick. I wouldn't say it replaces it. You still want to have the USB or something like that, so you have your data on hand. There's obviously a lot of cloud backup systems. You have to download your data again. It's there, but it's going to take a little while to download. But we're talking hours, not days. So it obviously depends on the amount of data you have. And as a Microsoft partner, I supply a lot of the Microsoft framework things. I've used it for a long time. It's backed by Microsoft. We've got a lot of resources, and they give you a lot of tools that you just need to grab and use and implement to make sure you are protected. And that's what we really help because we sit with a small business and we will go through it. And depending on your use case, we'll actually tailor it to you. There's hundreds and thousands of settings actually in the background of a lot of the systems, and you've got to tailor them, because if you turn them all on, all of a sudden you'll not be able to work properly. You know, there's lots of inconvenience that comes in with turning on all the features. So you've got to pick the ones that really are down to your risk case. What are you, particularly with the data set you're working with, what are you scared of? And we can help tailor that down to make sure that's covered. So identity management. So in the 365 Microsoft world, this is your email address. So I often see businesses running everything from a free email address that came with my web developer. That's, you know, at the beginning that might be good because of the cost, but actually using something like 365 has a lot more encryption as standard. It has more complex logins. Two-factor authentication is supported straight away. So as soon as you set up a new account, as a new user, we add a new user. You log in, it'll go through setting two-factor. It'll message to your phone or an app which gives you rolling codes. So that's really the basis of identity management. That's what it's about. And then the flip side of identity management, of course, as an IT manager or yourselves, as we can put tools into your hands to actually help do this yourself, depending on how confident you are. We'll obviously train with you. You know your business better than we do. So if you think something's wrong, you can hit the button and account. So in the cloud world, that means if somebody has got that password or something's happened, you can put a stop to it right there and then. And we can then assess afterwards and see, well, what had happened? What has somebody actually got in, or was it just a false something that it was just an update that came onto the computer, or what had happened? So yeah, so with your username and password now in Microsoft World, you can now activate your two-factor. Alongside two-factor authentication, you can actually use your same username and password, your same email address and password to get into lots of different systems. They're adding these systems every day. I think they're up to about 180. So I just took a sample, but effectively, if you set up something like Bitwarden Password Manager, it's one of the newer open source password managers that it really protects your data and helps you share your passwords with people that you want to share. So if you've got a team, you can share the passwords with everybody on your team. If you've, like an IT provider myself, I'm starting to use this to actually give clients back their admin passwords so that you've got access to them yourselves, should you need them. It's again, just another, just making sure you're as safe as you can be and you don't lose access to your own data. So yeah, I mean, that's a really powerful way. Obviously, if all your systems are behind your same username and password, let's say for instance, you have an employee leave or something's happening, you think, oh, what did they have access to? Which account? Was it, you know, and I see it happening again and again. Obviously, if they're all linked to one and you use that one login, you can suspend it and that's it. They won't get access to any of the systems that are connected. So that's very powerful. Because obviously it can take a long time to suspend each one individually and regain access. So preparation. So what I say about this is, by default, being from sort of banking and the compliance ideas, I mean, every business's data, if you hold any client data, obviously you have to register with the ICO, you're a data controller, you need to take that responsibility seriously. Having your laptops encrypted as soon as you get them, great idea. If you forgot your laptop somewhere, say you're in a pub or someone just picked it out of your bag, could they do anything with it? Have you got your password on a sticky note on the laptop itself? Don't do that. So if you've got one of our laptops that we've set up, say with biometrics, the only way to get into that laptop will be with your fingerprint or your password or your PIN. So already that's fine. So the only other ways that someone knows about computers can get into it is actually to take the hard drive out and interrogated outside of the laptop. And having it encrypted means when somebody does that, they don't see any of your data. They just see a big block. A bit like Marco's situation, actually, where he's been excluded from his data, you're excluding everybody else that shouldn't have it. The keys for these types of encryption are absolutely vital to know where they are. Obviously, if something goes wrong with your own laptop, now the encryption can work against you, because how do you get back into something that started to be, so you had a failing hard drive, the encryption key disappears. Microsoft 365 and the way we set it all up, make sure that keys are backed up against the user that uses the laptop. It's backed up against your single identity within the company. So anything you've encrypted, any USB stick, anything that you find and go, oh, I can't remember the key, we can retrieve the key. It's all saved within the cloud environment. So that's really, really powerful. Just don't lock yourself out of your own data. So yeah, I can't really promise that one. This is just a little snapshot of what that sort of management portal looks like. This is the sort of thing I do day in, day out, just looking at all the clients that are registered with us. We spend hours having a look at this type of a console. It's quite powerful. I mean, we're trying to, again, work with clients. A lot of them want to see things themselves. So there are portals you can log in and see. And actually, in this case, it just shows you the registered devices. So it's actually Emily's laptop and Philippe's iPhones are here. So what this is saying is that the policy has been applied and it's compliant. So the policy that goes behind these could be anything from, I don't want the webcam to work, to I need the hard drive encrypted, or I'm not going to allow people to email out to the company. It could be any of those types of things. And it'll tell me straight away if I couldn't apply anything. And it'll tell me what it was within this portal. So it's very, very powerful. So once we sit together and we come up with that, how do we lock ourselves down? That strategy for us. We can make sure that applies consistently across all your devices, which is key. You know, there's no, if you have the new one in and, oh, we'll do that next week, that's too late. We need to do it from the beginning and to keep you protected. So this brings me on to backups. So backups are obviously essential. Things like Marco's situation again, a lot of these backup systems, and we actually use Acronis cloud backup, which integrates one of the leading antivirus technologies called Bitdefender. So within a backup, you're also getting an antivirus that's actively checking your computer. And what that enables you to do is to things like ransomware, something you did click on something and you go, oh no, this type of a system will actually interrogate all the processes that are running. And if it detects any of them are actually encryption processes, so they're actually starting to try and take your data away, they will stop that process in its tracks. And actually, Bitdefender have sort of one of the largest data retrieval keys for these known encryptions. So they would work very well with it, and they're a phone call away from us as a partner with them as well. So we've got access to all that type of technology to make sure that we get you back up and running within days, not hours, or not months. It's a case of downloading a copy of your data. The Acronis system not only protects your laptops, it will also encrypt, also protect, all your emails in the cloud. Is anyone here on Gmail or G Suite or 365? Yeah, cool. So this type of a system will actually log in, and it can keep a copy of all of your emails, all of your OneDrive. So if somebody actually went in, right-clicked something and deleted it, you just tell me where the directory was, and we'll put it straight back. And because it's client to cloud, so this means you don't have to download it yourself. It'll just appear and actually be pushed out to your laptop. So this reduces recovery time from days to minutes, depending on if it's an email or if it's data in your OneDrive. We'll just put back what's needed, or if it's a complete restore, we can actually delete Microsoft 365 altogether, create a brand new account, and restore you back so you're up and running as fast as possible. Obviously, it just depends on, there's lots of options. It's good to have options in these situations. So yeah, that's just covering off some of the other active protection. This continuous data protection is actually something that's tool within the Bitdefender arsenal, and that actually keeps a copy of everything that you've been working on in memory off to one side. So if something starts to happen, we can actually roll it back. We can even roll back in cases where there's been a bad update, say Windows have pushed something out too soon or pushed it to your device when actually it's not compatible. We could just roll it back to where it was. Even when Windows itself says, sorry, unable to roll back, we can do it. And so that's a really powerful thing to be able to do. I like to make sure all the clients get onto that. So identity management, I mean, this really is for large companies. I'm just going to skip over this one. It's a case of servers in-house now can actually talk to your cloud identity. You're one username and password. If you've got a Microsoft server in-house as well, you can join those two together. Really, for small businesses, I would recommend cloud first, because servers obviously come with a lot of additional overhead and things. But there's solutions. If you do have a server but you don't want to stop using it, you can connect it to get the best of cloud as well as in-office security, so that all things make sense. Yeah, so as I said, this is what we end up doing. We try to sit with a few super users in an office. Everyone's got an IT guy in the corner, and you know, we can help make that IT guy, give them the tools that he needs to help you quicker, to reduce that time. So, I mean, you know, as you say, if everything's cloud connected and you're worried that a certain account's been compromised, maybe the two-factor authentication wasn't turned on it, you can just go in and quickly suspend that account, and it suspends within, it's an average of about 15 minutes, depending on when you do it, from the minute you click. So that's not too bad. And obviously, the quicker you can stop a breach, the better. So if it's a, yeah, so anyway, best practices for small business. So cyber policies, what we mean by that is the 365. Let's lock things down. Let's stop copying and paste functions. Depending on what systems you use, we can really tailor this to exactly the types of data you're just trying to stop. Moving from external systems, hosted systems, all the way through to your own emails. And obviously two-factor is key. Just have that on most accounts, even your Facebook and things like that, all supported now. Get yourself an app. I'd recommend the Authenticator app. Microsoft do one, Google do one. Pick one, and you can actually use that one for all your accounts. You don't need to download their Authenticator. Lots of people offer you their own one, but it's just really for advertising. They all work in the same way. So get one that you're familiar with, and just stick with it. You can add all your accounts to that. So who owns your data? So usually this is down to whoever has the card registered with your cloud account. So if you have a Microsoft 365, you know, set up by somebody who wasn't a Microsoft partner, for instance, they might be paying for it. And if you called Microsoft and said, I need access to my account, it'll only be the person whose bill is, who's got the card actually in the subscription that will be able to talk with them, and then they'll just hang up otherwise. You know, we always share your admin accounts with you as well, just to make sure, again, you've got access to it should you need it. We'll always sit there and support you with it. Make sure that you're not left in a position you don't want to be in with them either. But it's always powerful for you just to have access to them. Okay. Touched on a lot of this. Just conscious of time as well. I don't want to keep you guys too long. Yeah. So these ones. This is a very crucial point to make as well, is the bigger the cloud provider, the more resources they have to actually throw at their solutions. So they you know, there's lots of providers, lots of cheap web hosting and different things. They can do emails and do lots of different services. but they might not be, they won't have as much of a support structure as the big players. So again, that's why we like Microsoft, but Amazon and Google also do a very good job with this. So, but yeah, all the terms and conditions have to be published, so they're in there. The data's there. We just need to have a look before you put all your client data in it. Before you do everything, let's just have a quick look and see what their policies are. And if your data needs to be in the UK only, make sure we have all those functions turned on. So by default, we make sure that, that your Microsoft data is always in the UK. So that's a big regulatory thing for a lot of businesses. Yeah, so this covers on the bit. If you're using third-party developers, know them. Like Mark was saying, get them on the phone, find out where they've been, how long they've been around, what systems have they done, this type of thing. And the more you know about your developer, the people that are actually providing the service, the better you are, the better you've done your own due diligence to make sure you're not going into any unnecessary risk. Okay, antivirus. So as I mentioned, Bitdefender is a great one. I would really recommend not using the ones built into laptops. Anything that's free tends to be behind by about 24 to 48 hours for many of the outcoming viruses and things that are being identified. Bitdefender, again, has one of the largest networks. They have about 300 million computers all telling them about viruses that are being detected and things like on that side. So they're one of the first to find out. And a lot of other antiviruses actually use Bitdefender behind them. So you're buying another brand, actually this is the one that they will use to do the scan. And funny enough, with the Apple backup system, antivirus, everyone thinks with my computer's going slow. This is going to slow us down. These checks are really essential. And if you have something like the cloud backup, the cloud can actually scan your computer files out of your computer for anything. So they can do really, really intensive scans, things that your normal laptop just wouldn't cope with. And that will uncover anything that's hiding behind other programs or pretending to be an icon or something that might be clicked months ago, just sitting there waiting to do something. This will actually find those much, much more accurately than most other providers. Yeah, password keepers. I mean, this is key as well. The longer the password you've got, even if you do have two-factor authentication turned on, the better. In all honesty, I've got all my key accounts. I've got at least 20 digits randomized password. Just you cannot allow these accounts to get out. And the more you do with these accounts, the more powerful they become. The more data that's in them, the more valuable they are. So protect it. If they've ever had a two-factor problem, anything like that, a big password just helps keep you safe anyway. So no matter what the issue is, it's always a good idea. And actually, Bitwarden and a lot of them, I mean, I've used Dashlane for about 7 years, Bitwarden now for about 1, and they all do their own jobs. They all do a pretty good job, actually. But it's getting the one that works right for you. Some of them can be really annoying. You just go, oh, stop telling me. I'll close that down now. But the key is you can set them to have very complex passwords. That's something that you'll never remember. But they'll put it in for you, so you don't need to. The other advantage of that is Bitwarden and the different password keepers look at the URL. They actually go, I'm only going to put this password in if it's actually Google and app or login.microsoft.com. So if it's got something that's come up and it's not logging you in, check the browser. Actually, it might be one of these domains that got another I in it or a dash or something else. So the password will just make sure not to give your passwords away in the wrong situations when it looks right, but it's not. Okay, so web filtering. Just wanted to touch on this as it's quite a powerful tool, and actually it's something that a lot of attacks use. So DNS is what I'm talking about. DNS is effectively the phone book for the internet. So if you type in Google, DNS tells your computer where Google is, what's its IP address, which server it's going to. And really clever hackers and people like that can actually put their own version of Google in. And you think you're on actual Google, but no, the actual DNS server you're using has been compromised. They've actually put a load of their own websites in. So DNS, if you choose one, Google's DNS is actually quite a good one. They do a level of DNS filtering. They make sure that not anybody can just say where a website is, especially long-standing websites, things that don't change their IP addresses every day. They will make sure that that's not just suddenly updated to something else overnight. But that's really what DNS is. So a lot of the antivirus systems will let you do block websites. They automatically block known malicious domains. Obviously, it takes a bit of time for those domains to be known. So as soon as they get created, we go into the systems, and then this just works as a second line. Really, what Colin does, and making sure through the education, making sure you don't put things. It's great to do, but obviously this is when the mistake happens, and you've got a second layer. So the antivirus will just go, oh, hang on a minute, that's been reported, we're not going to let you go to that. And that just gives you that extra little bit of safety, which is always a good thing to have. So these are some of the biggest ones. Some of the biggest banks actually use the Cisco umbrella. But they start on about, say, 500 people to be able to sign up to them. So obviously that excludes a lot of the businesses on the Isle of Man. So we have our own systems that we put together, and we can tailor them to you. I won't bore you too much, but if you're interested, grab me after this. Cisco OpenDNS. So this is a free one, actually, you can sign up to. Have a little look. You can get ones that are already set up, basically, for home use, for kids, for things like that. If you have this system installed and you set the settings correctly, all will happen is when they're trying to go to a page they're not allowed to, they'll get the Cisco page and sorry, that's a bad page, try again. And this type of thing can actually go straight into your router. So if we are managing your router or helping you with any of your router things, we can have set this up. And that automatically covers all your mobile phones, anything that's connected through that internet connection. They all get filtered straight away. So it's an extremely powerful tool, even if they don't have antiviruses installed on them. This will just filter that straight away anyway. Okay, so routers, as we said, we just want to make sure routers are fit for purpose. They're up to date, just like your computer systems. These are computers. They've got a simple rule set to follow, and they'll do it to the letter. But you've got to give them a fighting chance. You've got to make sure that the routers are supported. A lot of the ones you get free, they've already been outdated by the time they're installed. So it's really worth investing and getting a good router. It also helps with flexibility. We manage a lot of routers, so we get reports back daily about what's been happening on the router. If it needs an update, if they recommended an update is coming up, we'll get advance warning. So we'll make sure that gets patched as soon as possible. Things like Marco's again, actually, quite often are down to things like a router where the rules have been set up years ago, and actually a lot of things have changed since, and those rules will be doing something other than what they're initially intended. So by rule of thumb, we tend to just close everything we can. If it's affecting your business, we'll obviously review them and make sure that you can get to what you need to, but really, you can close them down. They are the gateway between the internet and your Wi-Fi or your internal network. So if this says no, that's not in. And that's it, simple. And again, guest networks. So this is where you've all had it, I'm sure, when someone's come around, you've got your Sonos, and someone's taken over your Sonos. Well, this can stop that from happening. Because we can put your Sonos onto your main system with all your trusted devices, and then your friends are going around bringing in their virus-infected laptops, won't infect your systems, it won't affect your laptops, but actually things can hop from computer to computer. And with the guest Wi-Fi, it's available on most of the routers you have, all of the ones we supply. And that just creates a separate network. So you're both getting the same internet connection, but actually none of the devices can talk to each other. So it's a very, very powerful thing. Lots of coffee shops and things don't do this. You've got to make sure that they do, because obviously if you've got a point of sale, card reader or anything like that, you can unwittingly give your customers access to it by having free Wi-Fi. So this is crucial. As a small business, I mean, when I set up 3 years ago, the first thing I did was have a 365 system set up, because it provided us a central place to work, provided a backup to my laptop before I had money to pay for another backup. As soon as I've started working with people, we've brought on Emily and Philippe, and instantly I had a repository of all our data we could share with people anywhere. You share the marketing details with Emily, all that type of thing, so she can take over those. And that's very powerful. You can use the tools to actually share your files directly with your clients as well. And it gets around having to email them. You don't have to send an email. You can send a link through OneDrive and say, here's your data. And you can restrict it to only being accessed by the person who you've addressed it to. So actually, when you've created your upload, you send it only for that person, and they have to do a little authentication on their side to say, I'll let you know, thank you very much. And they'll get a password or a code to enter to access it at the one time. Just making sure it's secure from the beginning. Yeah, and that's me. So I just want to say thanks very much. Hope I didn't bore you too much with all the details. Always look at this from the nitty-gritty, the actual elements that you use behind the scenes. So, you know, if there's any questions, good time to ask. Otherwise, yeah, just thanks for coming along.
I was going to ask one, how can I trust you?
Yeah.
And one of my questions was about being regulated, but I spotted on one of your slides, you put you're not regulated.
Correct. There's no regulatory body in IT really. So cloud providers, IT companies, there's very loose guidance. And it was something that I'm interested in as soon as I created my own company. I was like, how do I get onto the preferred suppliers list, or you know, how do I show that that you know I'm taking all these elements and using them correctly? And it's a difficult thing to actually quantify. So obviously every IT engineer has their own experience. They have their own understanding of the got, and we try to get around it by double checking. You know, if we work with people like Colin, he looks at it from one aspect and we look at it from the other. And actually something like this could be really, you get the best environment that way, because you have somebody trying to break it and saying, well, actually that's a system, and I'd be like, oh, there's a setting for that. I'll just turn that on and we mitigate that. So it's you know, it really comes down to doing the research for the company, asking about previous projects, doing things like that. Yeah, I like to think my background has really helped a lot of businesses trust me and trust what we sort of bring to the table. But yeah, it is difficult. I'm not gonna lie. It's something that we're looking at, and we're still constantly looking at the providers that we use. We're constantly looking at the technologies we've got to find better ways of doing things. You know, and I think that's the hallmarks of really providing looking for. Are they continually looking? Are they checking? What they did 10 years ago, are they still, you know, just relying on that? You've got to ask those sort of questions. So what systems have you got? And, but yeah, it can be hard. And sometimes a second opinion is a good way to go. You just, you know, you can get a feel for asking a few people the same question and see the answers you get. You tend to get a feel for where they're coming from and what their knowledge is. So
I think you've got to cut your cloth to the size of your business as well. You know, what sort of service do you want? Things like that. I think Tim mentioned ISO 27001, Cyber Essentials. You know, do some stuff on Google, for example, Google reviews and all that sort of stuff. But I think here, people tend to know people who know people. That's the way the island seems to work. But they're not all hosting providers make equal. I think that's it. You've got to do your own due diligence. There is no regulatory place.
Absolutely. And we've actually helped rescue websites and domains and things from people that have gone, oh, just give me everything and we'll get it set up and working. And actually, we'll pull that back and help you get your data and your website back and your domains back. So one of the first things that actually web developers would ask for is the transfer of your domain to their control. That's something I would actually recommend you hold on to. You can actually give web developers just what they need to function for a website. They don't need the whole domain that controls your email and everything else, because you've lost control. You don't actually own it anymore. We offer hosting, but we also help people who want to look after their own domains and their own panel, and then we just look after the website. We can do things like that as well. So we just work really closely with you to get what you want. And retaining more control is a good idea, especially in these sort of situations where you go, well, that website's not really working for me anymore, but I've got a domain. I can go speak to a new person, have a website created in a few days, make it live. Without that domain control, they've really got you. So that's it. That's I don't know if there's any other questions for Colin or I.
Can I ask another one?
Yeah, of course you can.
You didn't mention Oxia.
Yes, Oxia, yeah. I mean,
Do a lot of people here pass their information to Oxia, and what do they do with it here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, they are they're really the Isle of Man's branch of the national cyber security people. So they're trying to help more as advisory and things like that. And from what I can see, you pass the information on to the Information Commissioner's office if you're dealing with data, things like that, and they will give you certain framework and guidance as to what to look for and what to do. And they'll give you sort of action plans and things if something was to happen, because it's always worth thinking about those things. And it's a valuable resource to look up.
So if you get suspicious emails in, phishing emails, things like that, and I would automatically forward them to Oxia, then you get a quick email back saying thank you for letting us know. You're not here anymore, and I just wondered, the Isle of Man, are a lot of businesses doing that, or is it just a few?
I think
are they building it up?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it is a few. It could be handled better. I find a lot of things they report it to the provider. So you can right click and say mark spam report, and then it goes back to your own system. If it sees it again, it won't let it back in again. And that's quite a good way. But developing these global guidance. The problem is that each email changes dramatically depending on they actually try to target people. They'll do research on you if they can, anything that's open in Facebook, and they can tailor it to what you do as much as possible, which makes it even harder to pick up. But that's where having a list of previous attacks isn't that helpful in a way, but it's good to make sure people know about it.
So you're not compromising your machine by forwarding that, are you?
Well, it's a good idea to actually take, what I would do is take a picture using a snipping tool or something on like a screen print rather than sending the actual active mail. And the reason being, on the other end, if they clicked it, they could actually be compromised by the issue. So you could actually be helping to infect more people. So what I would do is take a screenshot of it, attach it to a new email, delete this email, and then send that off. And the best information to have on them actually is the, as Colin's saying, you hover over, you can see your domain, you can see the bits. That's really good information to send to them. Yeah, absolutely. So.
I think you'll find that the Oxia are aspiring to be the equivalent of the UK National Cybersecurity Centre. I don't think they're quite there yet, but the UK NSC website is really good. There's lots of stuff on there. Plus, sorts of shapes and sizes of business, so use both. You can educate enough of this stuff.
Good.
Okay, but any other questions? I've counted on my
Just
side.
a really quick one on my side, and it's about cost. So with all the apps you showed and all the various means to monitor things remotely, if I can do this myself, is it more cost effective? And why should I pay you to do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I find it depends on what your experience is to how you read the information. What you do, what's the action points that you're actually picking up on? And having an experienced IT person just have a look at it can give a much different an outcome to you looking at it and going, oh, this is, kind of just putting it off to one side, effectively going, oh no, that's nothing to worry about. That comes up now and again, we'll just close it off. Some of the things are like that. Other things are actually, we need to act on this right now. So having that second set of eyes, even as like a, we offer like a pay-as-you-go service effectively. So if things come up, you can give us a call, we'll respond to you, and we'll go through it as quickly as we can. All of our computers that we look after, we put actually a remote support tool on them to make sure we can dive in with you as quickly as possible. It's obviously when it's on the screen, when things are happening, that's when we want to go out and look as quick as we can. But yeah, it's I think just a second set of eyes is the answer to your question. Really, it's good to get other opinions. Yeah.
And then a quick one from me. So, what's the best way to protect against ransomware?
So the ransomware, yeah, I mean, I would say backup is the absolute best. If you've got to back up all your data, you can wipe the machine, start again, and effectively put everything back the way it was very quickly. Obviously, it depends on the amount of data, but yeah, backup supported by antivirus to stop the ransomware in the first place is ideal. And obviously, just be very careful to not click links and check the emails where they come from. But yeah, as I say, the solution Mantis has found with the Acronis combines both of these, and it's actually quite competitively priced. So if you're interested in it, you can go from one laptop up to well, any number, to be honest. You can look after an entire company of 300 or just an individual computer. And that's the types of things that we've been looking for, actually, is trying to take stuff from the enterprise level and make it affordable to businesses. Say some of the systems start at 500 seats. Not everyone has 500 employees, so we try to buy those bulk and we can pass on the savings and make sure you can get protected within a reasonable budget. So that's it. All right.
Do you do hardware, or do you recommend any hardware?
Yeah,
Laptops?
we do. We look for, we supply new laptops, new desktops, things like that. We try to use systems with solid state hard drives. They make a huge difference. The price points are all pretty similar when you look at Currys and you look at the different places, but quite often we can either get the same level of computer, but with business in mind. So it'll be the professional version of Windows 10, not just home version that comes with, say, Currys. And then you'll have to spend another £140 to get the business side activated. So we look at all of our laptops and computers, and we'll make sure that if they need Pro on them for a small business, they've already got it on there. So actually, we can be quite competitive with the pricing and make sure everything's included. So as soon as you get it, especially if you have, say, a 365 account, we can actually put that on it straight away, deliver it ready to be logged in as your company with access to the data you wanted. So yeah, it's good joined up system. We're trying to be a one-stop shop, trying to make sure we've got an answer to everything that lots of businesses need, and do it quickly. I know whenever we get a call about a laptop, it's already overdue. So we do our best. Okay. Well, I think, yeah, with that then we can, anyone that wants to hang back, feel free, we'll be around for a bit. you'd like to leave any business cards or anything, just leave some on the desk here, or drop you an email just to say thanks. But yeah, take your pack. We've just done a little thanks for coming. Pack together for you. So, any questions, and if you need anything in the future, just myself or Colin and Sharon.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you very much.
That's why I was 50%, I was like, but now I'm really Stop the access to it,